As the Purdue Boilermakers launched what was to become a super season, all of the color and pageantry of Big Ten football was on display, setting the stage for the finely conditioned football players whose goals were high and whose confidence rang true. For the Big Ten's 1978 Coach of the Year, Jim Young, entering his second year at Purdue, the unanswered questions were, will the Boilers be able to generate that essential running game? And how good will the defense be? The Boilermakers were led by sophomore quarterback Mark Herman from Carmel, Indiana, who last year as a freshman was the number 2 passer in the country. A near-capacity crowd arrived with eager expectations to see what the new season would bring, with Michigan State on hand in Ross-Ade Stadium for the opener. Herman was there with the big pass play. But Coach Young was looking for the balanced running attack, and he got it. Boiler Lightning struck quickly at the start of the second half. Senior Rick Moss took the kickoff and returned it 63 yards. A Spartan face mask call put the ball in the 20. 7 plays later, Herman hit big tight end Dave Young, and the Boilers were on the board. The superbly conditioned Boilers' next possession started from the 13. On the 6th play, Herman flips it back to senior Russell Pope, and it's off to the races. Then the element which would prove to be the undoing of opponents all year made itself felt. Purdue's rugged and mobile defense. The final score came from 33 yards out. The sophomore John Macon ended the day with 15 carries for 120 yards. Russell Pope had 102 yards, and Purdue won 21-14. The third largest home crowd in Purdue history was on hand to welcome Woody Hayes' Ohio State Buckeyes. And Purdue took advantage of what it did best, throw the football. Mark Herman got excellent protection from the offensive line and hit 15 of 23 passes for 131 yards in the second half. All in all, Purdue got into the end zone 3 times. Macon punched across from the 1-yard line. Pope scampered around left end for his contribution. Junior Keena Turner ran down a Buckeye quarterback, and Reuben Floyd recovered the ball, setting the stage for Scott Savarine to capture the all-time Purdue field goal record with this kick, his 19th. Late in the game, Buckeye Art Sleester threw to Rod Gerald. A hit by Willie Harris knocked the ball loose. In the scramble, Wayne Smith came up with it. 3 plays later, Herman fired to Mike Harris, who made a great one-hand catch in the end zone. The happy Boilers carried home their second crucial conference victory, 27-16 over Ohio State. After the Buckeyes, it was back on the road for the first of 2 televised games. This one in Memorial Stadium against the Fighting Illini. Purdue's junk defense, featuring what the coaches referred to as a bit of this and a bit of that, moved people around, kept the offense guessing, and got lots of people to the ball quicker. It was good enough to be rated the 6th best defense in the nation. The defense dominated the Illini, and the offense kept ball control. Macon got his 3rd 100-yard game of the year as he bulldozed for 129 yards. Russell Pope also eclipsed the 100-yard mark for the 3rd time with 113 yards gained. Mark Herman completed 15 of 24 for 116 yards and 1 touchdown, moving him into the number 3 spot in Purdue's all-time passing record book, leaving Len Dawson behind and trailing only Bob Greasy and Mike Phipps. One week later, the television cameras were looking on again as the Iowa Hawkeyes hosted the league-leading Boilermakers, who stung the Hawks quickly with this opening pass play to Mike Harris, setting the tempo for the rest of the game. A Rick Moss interception gave the Boilermakers possession in the first quarter. Moss's interception set up a drive which included this 10-yard run by Mark Herman for a very important first down. Russell Pope capped the drive from the 11. Near the start of the second quarter, Herman hit his Carmel High School teammate Bart Burrow for a 25-yard TD. The junk defense picked off 4 Iowa passes altogether. This one by senior Rock Supan. Wayne Smith got this one. And the defense sacked the Iowa quarterback 4 times. Chuck Oliver took over for Herman and put the final points on the board, throwing to tight end Tim Eubank, the first pass thrown to Tim all year. Purdue had beaten Iowa for the 18th straight time. Homecoming. Purdue was on top of the Big Ten standings. Northwestern was the guest, and 64,000-plus fans came to Ross-Ade Stadium on a sun-drenched Saturday afternoon. After a slow start, Purdue got it rolling near the end of the first quarter. Fine play by the offensive line of Eubank, Thiel, Schwann, Quinn, Hull, McKenzie, and Burrell opened up both the passing and running game for Purdue. On the Wildcats' first play following the kickoff, free safety Willie Harris picked off Strasser's pass. The offense came back on the field. Ray Smith was the target for this TD pass. Four plays later, Purdue had the ball again and went for its third TD in 3 minutes and 28 seconds. Early in the third quarter, Willie Harris intercepted his second pass. Two plays later, Herman hit Pope with his third touchdown pass of the afternoon. When he went to the bench, Herman had completed 8 passes in a row for 134 yards, moving into the 7th spot in the all-time Big Ten passing parade. The junk defense permitted Northwestern to cross the midfield stripe only twice all day. Players like Jackson, Turner, Lauschen, and Motz anchored this defense. Keena Turner, leading a strong pass rush, had 3 of the 8 sacks, which totaled a minus 61 yards, and established a new Purdue record for tackles for loss. Big Ten leader Purdue beat the Wildcats 31-0. Everybody takes his best shot at the conference leader. Wisconsin's Badgers came up with a splendid effort against Purdue at their homecoming game in Camp Randall on a cold November 11th. Even great plays like these couldn't prevent a fourth quarter Badger rally from tying Purdue at the gun 24-all. This 75-yard pass completion to Dave Young stands as Herman's longest. Two weeks later, Purdue was set to close out the 1978 vintage year at home against Indiana. The bad news of the preceding week was their first conference loss at the hands of a rugged Michigan team. But the good news was an invitation to the Peach Bowl. Just 2 days after Thanksgiving, the Boilers were thinking only about beating Indiana and returning the old oaken bucket to the Purdue well. Game action on the Ross-Ade turf featured 2 lesser-known backfield performers, Mike Augustiniak, a junior from Leo, Indiana, and Wally Jones, a freshman from Detroit. Augustiniak, making only his second start, carried the ball 23 times for 135 yards. Jones ran 26 times for 103 yards and a touchdown. The special teams had a good day, too. Fine punting by freshman Joe Linville, and downfield coverage by sophomore Tom Kingsbury, who was a standout all year. Purdue's 36th win in the 54-game Old Oaken Bucket Series gave Purdue a glittering 8-2-1 season and a second-place finish in the Big Ten. The coaches and players, relaxing just a little after 11 weeks of total dedication, enjoyed the feeling of hard-earned satisfaction. At the 58th annual Kiwanis football banquet, Pop Doan performed again as the major domo in a cherished and traditional ritual, fastening another P-link on the Old Oaken Bucket chain of winners. On December 21st, the Boilermakers boarded an airplane for Atlanta and the Peach Bowl. Marriott Hotel provided the southern hospitality and some recreation for the Boilers. And the Bowl Committee provided luncheon banquets. The players were treated to the final judging of the Peach Bowl Queen candidates and received their Peach Bowl souvenir watches from the winner. The athletic department threw a Christmas party for the players the night before the game, complete with Santa Claus. Christmas Day in Atlanta was sunny and about 50 degrees, a fine day for football. The game started off with a flurry of touchdowns, giving Purdue a 34-7 lead over Georgia Tech in the first half. Mark Herman carried the ball across the goal line for the first time in his collegiate career. The junk defense lived up to their reputation and held the Yellow Jackets to a net 12 yards rushing for the day. Herman threw 24 passes for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. Purdue's running game netted 157 yards. Every one of the players who dressed for the game saw action. The trophy for the most valuable offensive player of the game went to quarterback Mark Herman. The defensive MVP trophy went to tackle Calvin Clark, whose hometown is Atlanta. And last, Purdue coach Jim Young accepted the Peach Bowl championship trophy. A fine ending for a vintage